that the apostles, Andrew the first called, and Simon the Canaanite, came to Abkhazia to preach the word of God. St. Simon is believed to have been beheaded and buried in this exquisite location of New Athos, formerly called Abkhazia. And it is here that we find this 9th, 10th century church dedicated to the saints. But the majority of pilgrims today come to New Athos more to worship tourism than God. Dominating New Athos is Anacapia, the ancient capital of Abkhazia. The walls surrounding it date to the 4th, 5th centuries, but the church within the walls was built in the 7th to 8th centuries. The Roman Emperor Justinian established 2 episcopal sees on Abkhazian territory. The first was at Pitsunda, as we have already seen. The second was here at Anacapia. It is fully appropriate that we should be here at Anacapia, the ancient center of power, to continue our survey of Abkhazian history. Because it was here, by these very walls, in 737, that an Arab army under Murvan ibn Muhammad, known as Murvan the Deaf, suffered a defeat. Their defeat was a factor in Leon I, potentate of Abkhazia, being able to strengthen his position in western Transcaucasia. Subsequently, with Byzantine power on the wane in the late 8th century, his successor, Leon II, took the opportunity to extend his domains by seizing a significant stretch of territory in the neighboring western Georgia. In fact, he occupied land as far as the Lychy Mountains, the Lychy Mountains being the traditional dividing line between the western Georgian provinces on the one hand and the central eastern provinces on the other. Leon created for himself the title King of the Abkhazians, and this Kingdom of Abkhazia, which continued to hold within its borders the whole of what is currently western Georgia, lasted for some 2 centuries, from about 780 to 978. During this period, the term Abkhazia, in whatever language this or that historical document happened to be written, referred to all the territory belonging to the King of Abkhazia. And the kingdom's capital was moved in the late 8th century from here at Anacapia to Kutaisi, which is today the 2nd largest city in Georgia, lying in the western province of Imereti. In 1008, Bagrat, who is known as Bagrat II according to the Abkhazian tradition, but Bagrat III according to the Georgian tradition, was the first king of the United Kingdom of the Abkhazians and the Georgians. Bagrat built this magnificently positioned church in the 11th century. It stands above the village of Bedia in Abkhazia's Tquachal district, which lies inland from Ochamchira. Inside there is a fresco, now sadly faded and vandalized, depicting Bagrat as the church's founder. From the 13th to the 15th centuries, the Genoese had trading posts all along the coast of the Black Sea, including Abkhazia. And it is interesting to note that until the arrival of the Mongols in the mid-13th century, the term for Abkhazia in the various written sources acquired an even larger territorial sense than it had previously possessed. It came to be synonymous during the period of the joint kingdom of the Abkhazians and Georgians with the native term that Georgia has for Georgia itself. And the reason for this is clearly the absolutely fundamental role that the Abkhazians had played in the creation of that joint kingdom. In the early 16th century, Ottoman Turkey, thanks to her dominance of the Black Sea behind me, began to influence developments in this part of the Caucasus. And it was from this time that Islam started to find a certain level of support amongst the native Abkhazians. Russia had begun to turn its eyes towards the Caucasus from the late 18th century, but the freedom-loving North Caucasian tribes stood in the way of Russia's consolidation in the area. In 1810, Abkhazia found itself under Russian protection, though local rulers continued to administer their own affairs until Russia took full control following the final defeat of the North Caucasian opposition, when the alliance of Northwest Caucasian tribes surrendered on the 21st of May 1864 at Krasnaya Polyana. This is a spot inland from the modern resort of Sochi and on the site of the venue for the 2014 Winter Olympics. Large numbers of Abkhazians elected to depart and set off, often in overcrowded, inadequate boats, to find a new life abroad.
You are building a society, but very much under the protection of the Russian peacekeeping force and your big neighbor on the other side of the border. How does that affect your building your democracy and your fair society?
For us today, the presence of the Russian peacekeepers is a factor of stability.
Yes.
On the other hand, you probably heard that during presidential elections there was a lot of pressure from Russia on the Abkhazian side to have the candidate
a different
candidate.
Not President Bagapsh.
Not President
the other,
yes. The other, his opponent. And though they were risking the relationship with the only ally they have today, still people insisted, we want to govern ourselves and we want to govern our affairs.
Sure.
I think you are right that it is very difficult to build democracy here, because when you have so many threats around this enemy, which remind time to time the military threats, and this very big neighbor is Russia, with its way of dealing with internal processes, which we don't like how it goes now.
Well, Russia is trying to preserve the status quo at the moment, both in Kosovo and in Abkhazia.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world is trying to impose a resolution on us, which we don't think is